Focus now. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, also a Fox News contributor. I'm so glad you're with me today. So I want to start with an open question because I mentioned this earlier to Steve Hilton. So reports are that the president of Mexico, Sheinbaum, is telling people here to go ahead and get out there and protest. Is that how normal relations go between countries?
Harris, thanks for having me on. No, that's outrageous. If those reports are true,
exactly.
No foreign leader should tell their foreign nationals in another country to go protest that other country. Indeed, Americans that are down in Mexico would not be permitted to protest inside of Mexico. That is both indecent and bad politics for her and bad for the Mexican people. It's bad for all of the citizens of Southern California who are just trying to live a peaceful life. To encourage these protests, to encourage this violence, and to not support President Trump's efforts to keep the place safe and secure seems inflammatory, if indeed this is what the president of Mexico did.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I mean, it's unless you go to Mexico, you don't exactly know what's being said, but that was heavily reported. I'll keep watching for it. Let's move to this. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted that if the violence in L.A. continues, active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton will also be mobilized, adding they are on high alert. The president responded to a question on that possibility yesterday. Let's watch.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
the bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Sending active duty Marines on the table, sir. Secretary Hegseth.
We're going to see what we need.
So did you ever anticipate, with the president answering the call of American voters in November, that he was going to take care of the crisis, the national security crisis that we had in our country with so many unvetted illegals here? Did you ever think we'd reach a point where we'd still be arguing over whether or not he should do that?
No, Harris, you've actually hit the nail on the head there. The fact that we're having this debate, the fact that there are those that are saying, nope, this is mostly peaceful. I think that's what I saw former Vice President Harris say again. The fact that we're having folks say, they encourage folks to go out and violently protest and are opposing the President of the United States, who is simply trying to keep people safe and secure, and to undo 4 years worth of policy that created enormous risk for our country. It's really quite something this debate's even being had today. This is such common sense.
Look, you talked about it. Let's go to it. Democrats roundly calling the riots peaceful protests, when in some cases we were watching it live and we could see that there was violence on the screen. Watch.
A lot of these peaceful protests are being generated because the president of the United States is sowing chaos and confusion.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Yeah, you know, that's the problem when you have live side-by-side television. It's actually a deja vu of what we heard from Democrats in the media back in 2020 during the riots protesting the killing of George Floyd. They call those protests mostly peaceful, and as we saw, violent rioting and looting and even extreme violence against people like law enforcement happening in cities across the country. Your reaction?
Harris, we've seen this bad movie before, and the federal government under President Biden and the governor of Minnesota and other places in Washington State and the folks in Seattle didn't do the necessary. They have an obligation to keep the citizens of their city and state safe. They didn't do it. In this case, President Trump is going to get that fixed. He's going to get this right. This is not about the right of citizens to assemble as protected in our Constitution. This isn't about First Amendment freedoms. We saw the violence. You can see the fires. You can see what's taking place. And there is a duty to keep all of the citizens safe. And it's unfortunate that we have to take our Marines away from their primary mission of warfighting to do this. But we've got to keep Americans safe. And I think it is totally appropriate to use whatever means are lawful and necessary to protect these citizens of these places who want nothing to do with this violence, but who are being subjected to it by the radical left and those who simply want to stoke chaos inside of our country just because the president is trying to get our country safe again after 4 years of wide open borders.
Yeah, it's proof that politically Democrats don't have a message. Look, as Secretary of State, you went all over the world. Real quickly, how do you think our enemies look at this?
I think they see a strong president restoring law and order in the United States as an enormous positive for our country And I think our adversaries say there is indeed a new model here in the United States, very different from what they've been dealing with for the last 4 years. And so I think our adversary spirit, and I think our friends understand that they would never let these protests take place in their countries. They're glad that we're not going to either.
Great to have you in focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris. Bless you. Have a good day.
God bless you.